I have here the new iPad mini and I absolutely love it. This is the purple 256 cellular model. And the purple looks really good. Purple isn't typically my color, but I have to say the way the purple looks on this guy, I really like it. This has an 8.3 inch display. It's liquid retina. This is the same display tech that's in the 11-inch iPad Pro and the iPad Air, and it looks really good. It has 500 nits of brightness, which is the same as the previous iPad minis and also that iPad Air, which does a good job. It also has True Tone, P3 wide color gambit, and an anti-reflective coating. It also has 326 pixels per inch. That actually makes it the densest pixel per inch display out of all the iPads. For comparison, the new 12.9-inch iPad Pro only has 264 pixels per inch. The redesign for this iPad mini has just given it new life. I'm really excited for this industrial design that Apple is bringing to all of their products, starting all the way back in 2018 with the iPad Pro. We've now seen it come to the iPad Air, the iPhone. I really like this design choice. It looks really good to me. One of the side effects of it being an iPad mini is, well, everything's smaller, hence the name mini. This can kind of be an issue in some parts, especially when it comes to widgets. I was noticing a lot of text just gets cut off, especially with the smaller widget. So if you use widgets on your home screen, you may want to stick with the medium, large, or even the extra large widget. By shrinking all the bezels on the iPad mini, Apple was actually able to make this a bit shorter, but add a bigger screen size. The weight of it is only 0.65 pounds. That's about 297 grams. It's incredibly light. The weight and size are the features of this iPad mini that I'm actually the most excited about. At this weight and size ratio, it's really easy to hold this iPad and interact with it one-handed. It also makes it really easy to hold for a long period of time. Unlike my 12.9-inch iPad Pro that I have here, can get pretty heavy and it's really big, so it makes it awkward to hold for a long period of time, and trying to hold it one-handed and interact with it one-handed, well, that just isn't gonna happen. With the iPad mini, I've been starting off my morning sitting in the chair that's right behind me, sipping my coffee, going through my RSS reader, good links, just catching up on articles and things like that. And at night, I've been laying in bed and reading a book. I even edited the outline for this video completely on the iPad mini, just sitting in that chair. If you're looking for a tablet that is a good e-reader, that's something that's good for reading articles, that also has a ton of apps that you can use, this is the iPad to look at. This is the device to look at, not even the iPad. This is just the tablet to look at. So this iPad mini has stereo speakers when in landscape. So it only has 2 speakers. The iPad Pro is the one that has 4. The iPad Air has 2, and this one has 2. So the iPad Air and the iPad mini both have stereo speakers when in landscape. What's cool about this is the volume buttons adapt to the orientation that you're holding the iPad mini in. So if you're holding it one way, the volume button is always going to be up. Then you could turn it upside down and the volume button is going to change, so the button facing up will still be volume up. That's really cool. That's one of those like Apple touches that they just thought of, that's just a nice touch. Where I found the speakers to be a bit of an issue was the other night. I was washing some dishes and I put a podcast on this iPad mini because I was curious how loud those speakers would get over, running water and stuff like that. And once I got the water running and I started washing the dishes, moving things around, I had a hard time hearing the podcast. So I had to move it to my HomePod minis that are in the kitchen. That sounded fine. So I think like if you're just like sitting in your office or bedroom or something and playing audio, this would be fine. But if you're doing another activity that's making noise, like washing the dishes or something like that, that's where it's going to kind of fall down. Watching video on this is really decent. I liked it for watching a lot of short form content. I've been making a ton of YouTube videos for this product and the OS releases and a few other things. So I've been reviewing all these videos on this iPad. So I have like not a more robust sound system, kind of a more average sound system, more average display brightness, things like that. And it worked out really well. If I was flying, I would definitely watch a movie on this. But in any other case, I think I would want something with a bigger screen. Because of the aspect ratio of this iPad mini, it typically doesn't work well with typical movie aspect ratios. You get massive black bars at the bottom and the top, so the movie itself is pretty small. But with TV shows, those are mostly in a 16:9 aspect ratio, and they looked fine on this iPad mini. There were still black bars, but they were pretty minimal. The content took up most of the screen, so I'd be pretty happy to watch anything in a 16:9 aspect ratio on this iPad. This iPad mini has an A15 chip in it. That is the same chip that is shipping in the new iPhone 13 and 13 Pro. It's fast. It works great. I was pretty happy with the results I was getting, and I'm really happy Apple put the A15 in this. Historically, the iPad mini is not a device that gets upgraded very often. I don't know if that's something that's going to change with this iPad mini, but just, look at history. It's not something that gets updated every year. So I'm glad they put the latest chip that they have in it, so it gives it the most amount of life that you'll get out of it. Like the base iPad got an A13. While that's great, that's still a few years old and not the latest tech. So it's going to start to feel sluggish a lot sooner than this iPad mini. But it also matters for things that you do. For those that are interested, it can totally handle editing 4K video if that's what you want, editing photos, editing audio, creative workflow. It handled everything I threw at it. Playing games was super smooth. It was I didn't see any issues. Played Divinity Original Sin 2, which is a pretty intensive graphic game. Like it's a game that came to PCs years ago and took a long time to come to consoles. You can pair a controller with any iPad, including this iPad mini. I was lucky enough to get a PS5 months and months ago, and with that bundle came an extra controller. So I have an extra controller that I just pair with various iPads and play games with. So I paired it with this iPad, and it was a great experience. I don't have anything bad to say about it, because I think, for one thing, like, iOS devices have gaming down. As they get more and more powerful, I'm hoping to see more modern console games come to these iPads. I think it can handle it, or hopefully soon it can start handling it, because I would really like to see the iPad be considered a console when it comes to gaming. I also loaded up the PS5 Remote Play app. Now, this isn't really intensive to the A15 chip, because all the processing is being handled on the PlayStation and you're just kind of seeing what's happening on the PlayStation. But it was super smooth playback. It worked really well. I played Spider-Man, so you're zipping through New York and you're just. I always wanted to be Spider-Man when I was a kid. No lag, no drop frames. It was super smooth. At no point did I feel any task I was throwing at this iPad mini felt slow, sluggish. I felt like I need to put this iPad mini down and grab my bigger iPad Pro or anything like that. Nope, it handled everything I threw at it just fine. So, A+ to the iPad mini as far as speed and handling of any given task that a computer does. This iPad mini also got Apple Pencil 2 support, and this is probably the second feature I am the most excited about. I really like the second gen Apple Pencil because it just magnetically attaches to the side, so it's always on your iPad. I think that was the biggest issue with the first gen Apple Pencil, is there was no way to attach it permanently to the iPad, so you always had to keep it in your bag. I know some people would get pen loops and attach them to their iPad and stuff like that. I did that for a little while. There was never really a great system. The magnet and the flat edges work perfect, because now it's also charging your Apple Pencil 2 when it's connected. You don't need to plug it into the side. One thing I was super curious about was, would I be able to thumb type, just like you normally would with an iPhone, on this iPad mini full screen in portrait mode, just holding it two-handed? And for me, I absolutely could. Now, I have big hands. I can, for reference here, iPad mini, big hand. I got a big hand right there. So I can thumb type on it just fine. Some people may not be able to, but this is how I mostly use this iPad, was by thumb typing on it. Now, if you don't have big hands, it's totally okay. There is a gesture. You just pinch on the keyboard there, and it'll make it a small version of that keyboard. It basically makes it the iPhone keyboard right there, and you could just tap on that one-handed and use that one-handed, no problem. It works just fine. I don't like that keyboard because I have big hands, so I'm always hitting the wrong button when I use that keyboard. So I like to use the full-size one on that iPad mini. The iPad mini has become my favorite computer to do research and note-taking on. Like I mentioned, the iPad mini is really easy to hold one-handed for a long period of time, so it made it really great to go through articles, support documents, PDF documents, things like that that I need to go through, highlight stuff, pull things out, sign documents, things like that. And then you could pair it with the new Quick Note feature, which allows you to take and link stuff from different apps into the Notes app and then like write short notes and stuff like that. That was an incredibly nice feature that was added in iPadOS 15, and it works really well with the new iPad mini. I've also been doing a lot of handwriting with the app GoodNotes. It's a great application if you do a lot of handwriting. Now, my handwriting is absolutely terrible, I know, but I can still read it. I've been doing things like writing shot lists, research notes for upcoming videos, checklists, and anything else that I just kind of want to note down. For those that use the Apple Pencil, journaling is great on the iPad mini. I have a template that I've been using for a couple of years now that just asks a couple of questions, has a task list and an area just to write. I have that loaded up in GoodNotes. I can write on it just fine, even with the small canvas. I normally use my 12.9-inch iPad Pro, but going down to this size, it was fine. It wasn't a big deal. It wasn't that big of a jump for that kind of a task. I also did a full GTD review with this iPad mini. For those that don't know what a GTD style review is you basically sit down and you figure out what the state of everything is and what the next action is going to be, and if it's something that you should even still be doing. I went through Things, Drafts, Fantastical, and Mail, just kind of went through those 4 applications, and it worked really well. When I do these styles of reviews, I like to have a lot of these apps in split view, especially Things and Fantastical and Things and Drafts. And the iPad mini handles split view in landscape really well. I think split view in portrait mode, even on the bigger iPads, that's where things can kind of start to fall down. Text gets wrapped really easily, so like you get these big old long list of just like of text, and it's just all wrapped like after like 5 words or something like that. So landscape split view, totally great. Slide over worked well. You know, it's a short slide over app, but slide over isn't really something that you're going to be interacting with for a long period of time. So I think it's fine that it's kind of short. You just interact with it and throw it to the side. During this review process, I didn't touch my iPad Pro once. I just sat in the chair, kicked back with my iPad mini, and went through everything. It's a super comfortable chair. That's why I keep referencing it. The iPad mini got camera upgrades to the front and back camera. What's really exciting to me as far as the camera is the front-facing camera is getting an ultra-wide lens and the center stage technology from the iPad Pro. I demoed that in my iPad Pro review, but basically what that does is it crops in on you and then tracks your face, and if somebody comes in, it'll extend it so they'll also be in frame. It's just a nice feature, so you're not having to think about framing before you jump on a video call. You just jump on a video call and let the device handle the framing. Touch ID is built in on the lock button. Personally, I like Face ID. I know some people really like Touch ID, so it's here, but it works really well. If you like it, you just put your finger on it, rest it, just like the iPad Air, and it unlocks. It works really well, and it's a very satisfying button to click too, that lock button. It's a nice button. I like that button. The Lightning port has been swapped out with a USB-C port. This is a USB-C 3.1 Gen 1. So this is the 5 gigabits per second port. I'm super happy to see this. Apple is unifying the ports on the iPad. Do the iPhone next, Apple. But yeah, I'm happy to see this. This means you can plug things in like external drives, microphones, cameras, stuff like that. It just makes that port more useful, because before you would have to go get a Lightning to USB adapter and then maybe even more stuff just depending on what you were trying to plug in. Now with USB-C, it just works a lot smoother, and it's also a lot faster. Battery life is solid. At the time of recording this, I've been using it just shy of a week, but on Saturday, I had this thing charged up to 100% in the morning. I used it pretty much all day, off and on, and at one point I had it completely on for an hour while I had a shot list with B-roll stuff up. I was using this to kind of for my B-roll shot list, so as I would shoot something, I'd mark it off, move on to the next thing, and I just had it on for that whole hour. And at the end of the day, it ended at 53%. I don't even know how that's possible. Normally, at the end of the day, my iPads are dead, but this thing still had half of its battery life left. Now, what's cool about the iPad mini, and the iPad Pro is that they support all the same software features. They support all the new stuff in iPadOS 15 across the board. So if you're interested in the software side of the iPad mini, I'm not going to rehash that because I just did a 45-minute video on iPadOS 15. Yes, you heard me right, 45 minutes. I will link to it in the description below if you're curious about like what the software capabilities are of it. But I really think when reviewing an iPad, you have to set aside the software stuff and the hardware stuff because they rarely come out at the same time. This is an exception, not a rule. One accessory I'm really excited to try with the iPad mini is Paperlike. Paperlike is a channel sponsor, and what it is a textured screen protector. So when you're using the Apple Pencil and the iPad, it feels like you're writing with pencil and paper and not plastic on glass. It's just a much better feeling. They're currently taking pre-orders for the new iPad mini option, but they have all the other sizes in stock. So if you're interested in getting a version for the iPad mini or for a different size iPad, I will put my link in the description below so you can check it out. So who is this iPad mini for? Well, I think this is the best tablet iPad. Let me explain. You might have noticed I didn't mention a hardware keyboard once. Well, that's because there's no smart connector on the back of this iPad. Now, you can still pair a Bluetooth keyboard with it if you want, but there's no first-party full keyboard for this iPad. So I don't see this as an iPad most people would want to connect a keyboard to. I see this as the true tablet of the iPad line. So if you're wanting a computer that you're going to hold in your hand to read a book, comic book, play a game, maybe watch some content, this is the tablet for you. If you want to browse the web, stuff like that, this is the computer for you. So the iPad mini to me is the default tablet if you're wanting a true modern iPad. I know there's the base iPad, and I'm going to do a whole video about that 9th Gen 1. But for me, I think this is the best base iPad. I actually already sold my 11-inch iPad Pro, and I plan on replacing what I use that 11-inch iPad Pro for with the iPad mini. I just think it's better for my needs because of its compact size. It's not even winter time, but I'm kind of excited because I have a jacket that this will fit in its jacket pocket, so I can just like put it in there and keep it with me and then pull it out when I need it. I'm really excited to see Apple put renewed life into the iPad mini. I think this is one of the best sizes of the iPad. It's been one of my favorite sizes for a long time, going all the way back to the original iPad. I sold my iPad 3rd gen to get the very first iPad mini and absolutely loved it. It was fantastic. I think a lot of people will like this as a tablet computer, as something to kind of kick back and do some reading, do some browsing, do some shopping, playing games, things like that. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comment section down below. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up button, subscribe if you haven't already, and thank you for watching, and have a great day.